As you can see, it's wet outside. It's been raining. The ground is saturated fairly well. Most of the wood or pieces of wood that you find in the forest are going to be wet after a rainstorm like this. That's our purpose today. We're going to try to build a fire using my custom fire bricks with nothing more than flint and magnesium starter. So our first step will be to gather up some wet pieces of wood, and then we will create a small pile of kindling that we can dry out with the waterproof fire brick that I have included in all of my survival kits. Okay, I've gathered up some wet kindling, some smaller pieces of wood from around trees, and what we're going to try to do is set these up in a small teepee style pile so that we can wedge the fire starter brick underneath and establish a small set of coals upon which we can add larger pieces of wood to dry out and burn as we go. So we are literally building a fire, and it's not easy to do with wet wood, but in a cold situation it's going to be imperative that you get a heat source going to keep yourself alive, to keep yourself from freezing to death. Hypothermia is not a particularly pleasant way to die, and frostbite is not something to be messed with. You can lose your fingers, even whole parts of your feet and hands. So a fire will be essential. So I'm going to start recording again in a moment after I've gotten the teepee style stack of wood set up, and we will go from there. Now, as you can see, I have found a small flat piece of wood upon which to pile my magnesium shavings. And what we will do is we will take the fire brick and we will place it in a way that the wick will be above the magnesium. And hopefully what will happen is when we spark the magnesium, the fire brick will begin burning, at which point we will move it into the small teepee of wet wood, where it will continue to burn and hopefully dry out the wood significantly enough that we can continue to build a fire on top of that. So that's what we're going to be doing next. I will use the flint and the sparker that you saw earlier, the small piece of flat metal, to strike it and get the magnesium started. So we'll be doing that in just a moment. Now we can move it, hold it up, and we can move it inside the structure where it will continue to burn for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Now remember, the fire brick is completely waterproof. You could soak it in a bathtub for 10 days and you would still be able to ignite it in the same way that I did. Now this will continue to burn for a fairly lengthy period of time, and it should dry out the wood significantly, at which point you can begin to add smaller pieces of wood, such as this, which is completely soaked and saturated, that you can begin to feed the fire even more. You can hear it crackling and popping. And voila, you have yourself a survival fire. Nurture it, add as much kindling as you can get, and continue to add larger pieces of wood in succession. This piece is fairly large. We'll wait for it to dry out. It'll create some really good coals, and we will be able to continue to add other pieces. Flat pieces like this are very good because they dry out and they continue to burn. As you can see, the fire is going very well, and you can make the fire as large as you need to make it by just continually adding successfully larger and larger pieces of wood. Pretty soon you'll have a roaring log fire. No matches, no lighter, nothing but your fire brick, and in each survival kit I will include instructions on how to make your own fire bricks. But the one that I give you with each kit should be enough. As you can see, the fire is really taking off once the fire brick gets going really well. It's an incredible survival tool. I make them myself, and now that you can see how to utilize it, you will be able to create a very nice fire even under the wettest of conditions.